And this is the conservation laboratory at the National Museum of the American Indian, which is very high-tech, very sophisticated and really high quality. But again, if you walked around and saw there are labels on each of those objects that says if a woman is menstruating, she can't touch it. You know, or if somebody from another clan or a tribe is there, they can't touch it. So there are all kinds of restrictions on who can handle this, how they can use it, and what can be done with it. That's a very controversial approach, or now that museums are struggling with this, it's very controversial in the United States because the Smithsonian is a public institution. And in the United States, it's in the Constitution of the United States that there is supposed to be a separation between church, religion, and government. So technically, a public institution is not allowed to restrict access to anything from anyone. That you could walk into the Smithsonian and say, I want to see this or I want to do this, and technically, legally, you have a right to do that. But the National Museum of the American Indian, out of respect for Native peoples' religious beliefs and values, are saying no. So this makes a lot of people angry, especially researchers who want access to those materials. It's a controversial topic. But one thing that they're trying to do is not just take care of, curate the material or protect the material integrity. What's a good word for integrity? Material integrity of an object. I can't think of an easy quality, characteristic of the object. I'm just thinking integrity is a kind of big word. But also the spiritual, non-material quality of the object. How the people feel about it, their values, their beliefs about that. So it's the tangible and intangible of how we can mix traditional care methods. Indigenous curation is about taking care of both the physical, the material, and the immaterial. I think that's okay. And just to close with, another really important element of this approach of how do we, what role can museums play in intangible cultural heritage, it's always also about community and community participation. To find out who are the indigenous curators and to bring them into the museum to work alongside the professionals or the staff. And I'll be talking more about that later. Because every museum, when we're talking about community-based museums, which are particularly well-suited for playing a strong role in the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage, more so than I tend to think more so than the national museums, the big national museums. But I just gave you an example how museums on that level can do it. It's more difficult because they're not embedded in a particular local community where you can try to work more with bringing in local people to be community curators with you. But it's possible. It's just more challenging. But community museums are a reflection of the community. They reflect the identity. They are a place that can help define the identity of a community in the process of defining what that museum is. Again, back to museum definition. A museum can be as different as the many museum methods that are out there in the world that's part of cultural diversity. That doing museum work is not just about one way or one practice. Again, there are many, many ways. So every community museum can have its own unique identity. And this is from Nata's museum. It's one of the cultural hallmarks or treasures of Nias culture is the architecture. And there's lots of different styles of architecture. So one of the features of the museum is that they have life-size, real-size models of traditional style houses. So this is one of the houses on the museum grounds that makes it very much a Nias museum. You won't find that. I guess Tom and Minnie in Jakarta, but it makes it unique. That's a characteristic that's unique to the Nias Museum, as it's unique to Nias culture. And I'll just close by saying that if we think about museums as always being products of a particular time and place and culture, then that they will have this identity. And if we're so concerned about preserving diversity, we don't want all of our museums to look alike, even though they do most of the time. You can go to a museum in Bangkok, or a museum in Shanghai, a museum in Amsterdam, a museum in Italy. There are going to be certain characteristics that they all look alike. In a way that's good, then we know what a museum is. But what are we doing when we just keep reproducing this same idea over and over again? What is being lost in that process? So I'll stop there.